Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities Show, 4th of July weekend, monthly edition. Today, we step back, take a look at the big picture on all the markets that we cover. Always a great exercise. My name is Ben Maldonado, and as always, I'm here with my partner, Barry Hederachi. How are you doing, Barry?
Doing pretty well.
Ready to pull back and take a look at the view from 10,000 feet?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good one because we're at the halfway mark, and it's a good time to review and see how it's been going.
Absolutely, and especially with the markets hitting a potential inflection point. Really stepping back and looking at the monthlies gives you the perspective you need to not lose the big trend for the short-term chop or the short-term action. So the first one we want to look at is Bitcoin. The thing that struck me when I opened this chart and looked at it in preparation for this show was that the decision got made up here, 31,000. This monthly we were testing it. The previous month we had tested it, and I think with definitive clarity it said, that's it, reject that price. And now the new battleground and the new test is down here at around 17,500. Mm-hmm. As is a lot, if you look at historically, go back and look at bubbles, what seems to be happening is we're on the way to retrace this entire move. So, I'm not in the prediction business, but if I was a betting man, and I am at times, this is where I think we're heading, to the 4,000 or 5,000 area eventually. Not in one shot, not next week, but bigger picture. That's kind of what it's telling. The good news is we don't have to make the prediction. We just watch at the different levels and see what happens. And then based on that, we can assess probability. So the next big battle is this 17,500 area. If we lose that, then 4,200's in play. Anything to add here on Bitcoin?
I think that halfway, the 50% of the square is the area to watch. And, on a daily basis, if we can't get above that or stay above that, I think, we're probably going to slide down into the full square.
Yeah.
Kind of how it happens, over and over again. If you look at all these hundreds and hundreds of charts we review every week, over the years, right? It's the same pattern. So
no question. And if you've watched our shows and you go back and you look at different shows on YouTube, these are always decision points, right? The full square, the half squares, and you can see what Bitcoin has done. It has made choices every time, and the choices recently have been to violate them and lose the support. So until that changes, that's the bias on Bitcoin.
Right.
All right, let's flip over to the ES, your favorite trading vehicle. ES is showing that, we made that spike low. We're in this range here. And the thing that I look at on the chart, other than, really good price and time at the high coming off that 2009, great financial crisis lows, we went 3 squares in time and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares in price. The thing I'm looking at is, right in here, we're kind of in no man's land. If we get this summer rally that, cycles are calling for and other things we're looking at, 3950, 3960 would be the full square here. Could it go up another eighth? Absolutely. Taking us to 4050, 4060. At this point, if I was looking at this as an isolated market, I'd say there's no real edge either way. And I would want, to either get here to try and sell it or get here to look at buying it. What do you think on the monthly here on ES?
Yeah, monthly on those squares, yes, it's not quite, it's here, no there, it's sort of in the middle. But we reviewed yesterday, looking at the other weeklies and the dailies, we had some squares that lined up at the low, not the low, but, a possible temporary low.
Mm-hmm.
And yours did too, because it's basically what, 3/8.
3/8, yeah.
That's not a weak spot by any means.
No.
At least for some kind of a reaction. So
Absolutely. And again, bigger picture, this is the important thing to take out of this, right? That is a major, major top. And we have to see how it plays out. But the view from 10,000 feet on ES is, the direction of least resistance right now is down.
Yeah. Plus that, look at the steepness of that angle, the
Yeah,
trend
right
line you have there.
Yeah.
That's not going to be there by for much longer. So
Not right. And then you can see these numbers here. I've gone on over them on previous monthlies just to quickly tell you what they are. These are trading months from other important highs and lows in the past, and everything kind of triangulated around this time frame. This February, March time frame in 2022, and the high came in January. So there's a lot of stuff pointing to the fact that this is not just a bull market pullback, but a bear market beginning.
And that full square above is the key level to watch, that 39.50, 55 you have there.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
And that fits right with I think you had 39.60 on the show yesterday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's right there. Right there. So we'll see how it plays out. Again, here, unlike the commodities, which we'll watch, the path of least resistance is lower on ES. Let's jump over to NQs. Similar story here. The high came in right on a full square. We found support on a half square here. Now we're trying to see what kind of bounce we get out of this low that we triangulated on other time frames with squares and such. I would think if we bounce and we can get all the way up here, that would be a really, really good sell if we get stuck under that full square. 13,000 is the level there on a monthly basis. I don't know that we get that high, but we'll see. We'll watch and see what happens. Clearly, if we lose this, call it 11,250 on the downside, then we're opening up the full square and trend lines back from 2013, 14, 15. So the full square is around, call it 9,500. Again, NASDAQ looks weak. We're just going to see what this first bounce looks like. I mean, as you can see, there really hasn't even been a bounce yet. It's essentially been, 7 months down. Anything to add here, Barry?
No, I think we're good. Covered everything.
Yeah. Also structurally, that a 9,500 and this full square would be with the highs in 2019 before the COVID plunge. So
right.
that could be a magnet there. All right, let's jump over and check out bonds. Bonds are interesting in that, we on the monthly show, we've talked about this. This is a roughly 40-year trend line that we pierced and then popped right back above. We found the low here on the 7/8 of the square. Didn't quite make it down to the full square yet. Would love to see a bounce up to this half square, which is in about the 147, call it 147 range. If we get there, it gets stuck. We also have this trend line off the high. That would be a great sell. The overall trend, as you can see, is bearish. There is some support down here on this full square. I think we're going to test that full square minimally, which would be around 126. So we're just waiting for the right setup. If we get it, as I say, if we get this move up to 147.5 and it fails, that's a good sell. And if I remember correctly, 147 was something you got off your daily as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, I think, you had a 40-year bull market in bonds. I think we're going to see a little more than, a 2-year bear market here. So the path of least resistance in bonds looks lower, and we're just waiting for the counter trends to finish and see what kind of setup we get on the downside. Anything else to add here on bonds?
No, we're good. Did we do an ABC on that on the way down?
Let's see. I think we might have been.
Almost, right?
Yeah, just a little short,
Mm-hmm.
but almost there.
Yeah, we could test. I think that half square is definitely the place to watch.
Yeah, that would be the moment of truth, wouldn't it? Right here, 147.5. So let's see what happens.
And the key thing is we took out last month's high.
Right. So this is the first counter trend since like the start of 2022. Believe it or not.
Right.
So, because even that one bar up bar was just an outside bar.
Reversal, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if it can hold. July's got a lot to run yet. All right, let's jump in and do some of the commodities. We'll start with the grains. And before we jump specifically into wheat, the key thing with the commodities, what I saw in my scans and my studies and preparation was that there's a correction taking place in almost all the commodity markets. Some are a little deeper than others. Some is more just consolidation in an ongoing big picture bull market. That was what I thought coming in. After the review, I think the same, and we're gonna see evidence of that here in flipping through these really quickly. Here's wheat. We made this double top false break high. We're pulling back off of that, and we're coming into what I think is going to be pretty good support. I don't think we're there yet. We may have to, we may be there price wise, but we may have to burn off more time, or how markets are. It may push a little further just to shake things up. The full square here is around the 750 area. And yesterday on our weekly show, I was talking about 750 as a decent target, just based on the daily. The monthly has the same area of support. So to me, it feels like, they're going to push through this little steep trend line and maybe get back here and get to the full square. If we do get to the full square, you can see we're well above the lows from the last, 6, 7, 8 years. And we're right in this range of, the previous peak after the great financial crisis in 2010, 11, 12. I think it still looks bullish. I think we're not done with the correction yet, whether it's more price or just time. We'll let that play out. But wheat looks pretty good longer term. What are your thoughts here on wheat?
I think you covered all the key points. We're good there.
Okay. Let's jump over to corn. Here's corn. Similar picture to wheat, a little less pullback. Basically, we've done a half a square here plus, but a similar story, right? We've had this strong move up around previous highs, rejected at those highs, and we're pulling back now. I think a decent level, if we can get it in corn back here, would be around the 548, 547 area. Again, if that turns out to be, if the full square there can hold, and that turns out to be the low in this correction, you can see we'll be sitting on top of this entire consolidation. And if you go back and look at this, how this sort of fractal played out, made a high, pulled back, did a double top. So you could say double top, pulled back to a full square, and then made a higher high yet on one more push up. So we may do something like that here in corn. I like corn longer term. I think it's bullish. We're just going to try and focus in on where this low can come in and where the setup makes sense for getting long again on corn. What else do you have to add here on corn?
Well, I think like all of them, and we talk about this often, I think it's time to be patient and wait for prices to come into place. And they all look like healthy, normal correction so far. So it's got to continue to watch it, let it finish up.
Exactly. Let it finish up and give us a good setup to enter it all.
And it'll be worth the wait.
Yeah. Because the move should be really, really substantial. So let's see. Let's check out soybeans. Now, soybeans is interesting. And in my scans, and I mentioned this yesterday in the weekly show, when markets are correcting or pulling back, it's a really good idea to notice the ones that, whether it's if you're looking at stocks or whether you're looking at commodities, notice the ones that resist the decline, right? They do correct, they do decline, but they don't decline as much, or they kind of go sideways, but they just show relative strength. And so far, I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to happen for, the next 2-3 months, but so far, soybeans is showing real relative strength versus the other grains. Because if you notice, the pullback, is really shallow so far. Now, maybe they're going to catch up in the next week and the next month, and the chart will look a lot like either wheat or corn. But for now, it's really a fairly shallow pullback. Recent development is we lost this full square last month and then tested it this month, and we lost that. So we could see some more weakness here. The next key level is this half square, which is around, call it 1270, 1275. Again, if we find support there, or even, one more eighth down, we're sitting on top of this entire consolidation for the last 7-8 years. So I think beans looks good. Beans look really strong on a relative basis, and it's one to keep on the radar for bullish setups on the shorter time frames. What do you think about beans here, Barry?
Well, I think even if it comes back and retests the halfway point, half of the square, it's still in very strong position, like everything else.
Looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks very good.
Okay. Let's jump over and check out the softs. And a lot like the grains, there's a few that are standing out that I want to point out in addition to doing the review of all of them. Let's start with sugar. So sugar, as you know, we've been bullish on sugar last year and going into this year, and we've sort of seen this frustrating sideways chop for the last 6-8 months in sugar. The key thing to hear, again, look at the move higher and then the pullback. The pullback is sideways.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of price erosion. It's more of let's burn off the time before the next move higher. So I think sugar has one of the most enticing risk reward ratios right now. And when the setup's there, I really, really like sugar for strong move higher. For your reference, just on the monthlies, this level of the half square that we've been bouncing around for months is around 1865. On the daily, the square is around 1850. So it's in that 18 and a half area is really, really critical on the short term. And if we can get above that, stick on it, and then break out of this triangle, the next level is 23 and a half. And we break that, and then you're looking at all-time highs. It can start attacking 28, 33, and sugar right now is 18. So a lot of upside potential here. We just got to be patient, wait for this triangle to resolve. And but again, the fact that it's correcting sideways and not a lot of price erosion is really bullish longer term. Anything to add here on sugar?
No, I think you covered it fairly well. The main thing now is really the triangle there. It looks very bullish. We'll see. Sometimes they can do a fake and break out and roll over, but this doesn't. It's hard to see those on a monthly. So this looks very good, especially how it held while you take wheat or cotton, for example, that just fell off the edge cliff.
Yep.
Right? So yeah.
Speak of the devil, let's take a look at cotton. Cotton has fallen off a cliff, but the important thing, right? Step back, look at the monthly, look at the big picture, right? We were at a square here. We topped on the square, strong sell-off right to the bottom of the square.
Mm-hmm.
And the key here, it's on top of this triangle where we broke out and made that whole move. Sitting on top of the highs in 2018, sitting on top of the highs in 2014.
It's critical spot.
13, 12. I mean, this is the spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if cotton holds here, and so far it has, the close for June was above the square. So far, the close this past week was above the square. As long as we can hold in this area, which is, let me give you the price, 95 and a half, 95 area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can even take it, if you want to have a range, you can take it down to the eighth and say, 89 to 95, that in that range there. As long as we hold this range, It's just going to build the base to make a next move up and reattack this top of the square, and then potentially go after those all-time highs. So while this looks painful and scary, and you look at a daily and you're like, oh my God, I want to short this thing. Zoom out and look at the monthly.
Mm-hmm.
That's a normal pullback. Top of the square, bottom of the square, sitting on top of support. It's a good example of how zooming out gives you a much different perspective. Anything else to add here on cotton?
No, you covered it really well.
Okay.
We're good.
The one we can spend the least amount of time on, because it's still triangulating, is cocoa.
The never-ending triangle.
Oh my God. This is what if you really want to say it, it's an 8-year triangle.
Yeah.
7-8 year triangle. Massive triangle. We had hope here when this sort of sharper, shorter term, sharper angle type of triangle was going, but it looks like now, so far we're trying to push out of that, and maybe we're back into the big one again. So let's see. Nothing to do in this market until the breakout happens, but when it does, there's a lot of pent-up energy here.
Other than eating chocolate, so and drinking chocolate milk.
Yeah, and if you play it right, you'll have a lot of money to buy that. You buy your chocolate and your chocolate milk. But until it happens, there's nothing to do. Let's go to the next one that's also exhibiting really good relative strength, and a lot like sugar, consolidating and correcting in a sideways manner.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how it's it's pulling back, but it's pulling back right onto the full square, and the bars are small. There's no real big down bars like we just saw in the cotton chart. So this I think is showing us a very similar pattern to sugar, where we've got a key level here on a full square, call it 210, 211, 212. Again, even if you give it some latitude, say all the way down to around 200 is just another eighth. So this 200 to 210, when you're looking at it on a monthly basis, as long as we can hold that area, it's just building the base for the next move up. And the next move up on the full square would be 300 coffee, all-time highs. So coffee's another one that looks good, exhibiting relative strength. We just got to watch the setup and use the shorter time frames to try and catch it when momentum starts kicking in.
As long as it's above that square, it's it could quietly turn around and just start running. So you have to really watch it here. It's one of those decision points. So
yep, very important spot for coffee. Bigger picture continues to look bullish. So let's jump over now and do the metals.
There's gold.
There's gold. Let's jump in and check out the base metals and the precious metals and see how the big picture looks on them. Gold, as you can see, is another one of those markets showing relative strength. Yes, it's been correcting. Yes, the bears say, oh, it's gone nowhere when inflation has been raging. It's not the same as it used to be. Well, the truth of the matter is it hadn't gone down much either. This is basically a sideways time correction. Big move, breakout higher, and we've gone sideways. Mm-hmm. All around this full square level, which is in the, call it 1926, 1927 area, which is right around the previous high. To me, this is a bullish market that's consolidating and just waiting for the next trigger to go. From a level standpoint, 1925, 1927 on the upside. On the downside, we've got this half square, which is around, call it 1670. Could they do something super devilish, come down, take out these stops, and then go?
Yes.
Precious metals and commodities and markets do it all the time. Mm-hmm. But the point here is that this is a bullish market. While it is correcting and it has been a frustrating time for the bulls, it's a sideways bullish correction. With the lows basically around the previous high in the last cycle. Mm-hmm. That's the definition of something that's bullish in my book. Anyway, what are your thoughts, Barry?
Well, I think since we're talking about monthlies, it's been a quiet market for a while, but I think the best parts are coming in the coming months and years. So you have to be patient and pick and choose your points. And this isn't one of them.
No, because we're right in the middle of this range, really.
Exactly.
So on a monthly basis, it's bullish, but you need patience. That's the summary.
Depends on your trade. I mean, if you're accumulating physical gold or, slowly adding to some position, that's okay here, but for very long term. But when it comes to trading, swing trading, we're not quite there yet.
No, if you're buying options, you're just going to bleed premium.
But if you guys, we cover gold every week. So for those traders, we have it there.
Absolutely. And we'll hopefully in those sessions, we'll pick up the shorter term clues that momentum's kicking in and it's time to, with the long term in your favor, that's the trade, right? Short term momentum, long term bullish. That's the trade.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's jump over to silver. It's a similar situation. It's seeing a little more weakness here the last couple months. But primarily, it's been this sideways correction up until this last 2 months. We were on top of this full square and sitting on top of this consolidation. So this is a little extra weakness. It actually gives me hope that this is getting close to being over for the precious metals because we haven't even gone a full eighth over the square yet, which is kind of that's the demarcation line where once you get past that, then you can say, okay, that you're losing that level. So we still haven't even hit the eighth. This could be the extra push, that happens in a market. For example, right here, we were going sideways and then all of a sudden 1 month, bam, take out all the stops. And then there's your real move. This is not uncommon in commodities at all. As a matter of fact, it happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Not only in commodities, in the Forex markets and, in the futures markets, this is what they do on a longer term basis. So when you go back and you look at your longer term charts, this is kind of the signature that you see. And maybe that's happening here. Maybe we're just pushing that little extra bit, to test this little range that we had here. But I mean, silver's bullish. The key level to look at here is call it 2088. So just under 21. That's the full square. Above that, there's unquestionable bullishness in the stock. Below it, we got to see how this plays out. I do still think silver is very bullish. And this is just this extra, see how many people we can trap type move, but we'll see. Time will tell us on that. What are your thoughts here on silver?
Well, I think it's pretty much the same story. We're just waiting for time to run out. And structurally, we're sitting almost on top of it. I remember looking at, what do we have here? 19. Where do you have 17? Around 1750. Where is that?
1750 would be right in here.
Right in there, yeah.
Right in the
that
middle.
area is still good, and I think that would be a better place because when we get down to there, we're starting to have some squares coming off the highs and lows.
True.
Might be a better place. So again, let's just wait and see.
And while we're doing that, let me just check one thing because I bet that's the ABC level too. Not a little higher than that, a little higher, but let's see. 1860, yeah, it's a little higher than 1750. There's your bigger ABC.
Yep.
So anyway, I agree. I think it's bullish. We just got to be patient. And remember, look at the depth of this pullback and the depth of the pullback in gold. And then here's another one I'll show you in this group of the base metals where a lot steeper pullback. Here's copper. Copper was doing this crazy, crossing of this full square here for months and months. It looks like it was almost a full year it did this, a little over a year. And then recently, the last few months, last month we had that big down move. We've made a lower low this month. It looks like to me copper wants to come down and test this full square, which is, call it 320, 315, 320.
Mhm.
And if it does, guess what? It's still long-term bullish. I mean, look at what it's testing.
Exactly.
Not only testing the full square, we're testing those highs from 2017, 2018. These lows here from 2011, 12, 13. So while if you're long, this is really painful. If you're watching the market and you're trying to get a position in because of the bullish long-term structure, this is what you want to see. You want to see these pullbacks. You want to see them hold support, and you want to see them sit on top of previous highs.
Mhm.
So it's a wait and see in copper to see what it does. To the upside, if we can break above, call it 380, that's the half square. If we can break above that and sit on top of it, then the correction's done, and it looks like we're heading higher in copper. Anything else to add on copper?
No, we're good.
Okay, let's jump into the energies. We'll start with crude. Crude's another one that, while commodities have corrected, crude has basically gone sideways in a big triangle.
Mhm.
We had the spike high here on the Russian invasion, big pullback, another lower high, and a series of higher lows. So we're triangulating here, which is a consolidation or a correction pattern. And after a big up move, that's generally bullish.
Mhm.
And you look at the areas where we're doing it above this half square, and the half square on the monthly, call it 101, 100, 101. Anything above that is bullish.
Close to our 97 from the other charts. So
yeah, from the dailies, yeah. And then 114 is the upside, where if we can settle on top of that, it's not only, yeah, it's huge, because not only is it important, on the monthly square, it sits on top of all these highs here that we made in 2011, 12, and 13.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a bullish chart. Yes, it's a steep angle. Yes, it's at some point this is going to give it up, but the nature of this correction so far says there's a bid under this market. Anything else to add on crude, Barry? I know you cover it on the big five, so you have some other insights from a weekly basis and a daily basis.
Well, from looking at the weekly yesterday, doing the weekly chart, the weekly crude chart, it just seems like above 97 to 100. It's up there. It's sort of cocked and ready. It's just a matter of time before something happens. So when the pattern is like that, it's just a matter of waiting. So you have to really watch, unless you're got in a position, if you're doing options or some such, then you have to really wait for the timing, and that you can get on the shorter time frames. To say that, as long as we're above this 97 to 100 level, you really have to be on top of it, because it could start moving, on very short notice. So I think it's a time to be very alert, more than, let's say, cotton or copper, for example.
Sure, or the grains, that take a little more time to
because
turn.
We're really right there. It's in a good spot to go.
Agreed. This is one that we've been all over all year, and I've stayed bullish just because of the chart structure, and the cycles are just really, really favorable for crude.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check out, other than Bitcoin, the most volatile asset I trade, which is natural gas. What a ride this thing's had lately.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the monthly, it sort of calms it down, doesn't it?
Yep.
Basically went from top of the square to the bottom of the square.
Yeah.
Which happens to be almost a 50% move. But
Mm-hmm.
that being said, and we did it in a month, same month.
Yeah.
But when you look at this chart, Barry, what do you see?
I think there's way more upside.
Absolutely.
Somewhere in there.
Absolutely. I mean, we just got to zero in the timing on this thing, because look where the pullback came to, guys. It came right to the full square, which in this case, call it, 568, 570. And it's, again, sitting on top of this, 12-year, 13-year consolidation.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get stuck under this level, it is really, really bullish. If we get stuck under, we got to reassess and we say, okay, are we going to pull back to here? Are we going to pull back to this high here, go like an eighth or an eighth more? Or are we going to pull back a quarter more, and say it's here? Okay, then it's a little more sort of show me, prove it.
Mhm.
But if we stay on top of this, that's really bullish. So nat gas is again on the radar. If you were long and you stuck through that pullback, God bless you, but you're not out of the woods yet. But it does look good if we can hold this area.
Mhm.
Anything else to add here on nat gas?
We're good to go.
Okay, so you could see from this whirlwind we did going through the commodity charts as well as the major indices with Bitcoin, NQs, bonds, ES. There's a sort of pause in the major trends that we're seeing in the markets with the ES, bonds, NQs, and Bitcoin. It was it's been a down market and there's a pause there, and we're seeing some sort of correction or counter trend taking place. And we're trying to triangulate when those bigger picture trends are going to take over again. And we've put out some timing ideas both on the weekly show and on Twitter about when that might happen. With the commodities, it's the reverse. They've been bullish, and we're seeing in some a sharp correction, in some more of a consolidation at the highs. The bigger picture on the commodities, both chart wise and cycle wise, is still very, very bullish. We think we have, a few years left to run in these markets. So as long as the technicals support that and the big picture supports that view, we're going to look for, places to get long again for the next leg higher. And, when the charts change that message, then our message is going to change and our approach is going to change. But for now, it's still very bullish, and these big corrections that we've seen in some of these markets has heightened our interest in watching to see if we get the setups on the shorter time frames to get involved again on the long side. Anything else to add, Barry, on your thoughts on the big picture view for the month of June that we just completed?
Well, it seems like it's the time to sit back and wait for things to come into your sort of your trap,
Right.
Into your hands.
Yeah.
And to be patient, because if you get all bullied up all the time, then market takes it all away at some point. And we did pretty well on the run up, and now it's the correction, so we have to kind of get through that, and probably not much longer. Maybe closer to the end of the year, we should wrap all these up, and one by one they'll probably start turning the other way. So we'll be looking for the clues.
And we'll provide heads up on our weekly shows and on Twitter as we see it.
Yeah, and if you guys like the work, please, remember to hit the like button and the alerts, and share these videos with people that might find it beneficial.
Yes, please do. And lastly, happy 4th of July, everybody. And on the monthly basis, we'll talk to you in a month.
Very good. Good job,
All right.
Ben. Thanks.
Thanks, Barry. Take
care,
care,
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.